Last time I checked, Harry and Meghan did need to ask the late Queen's permission to name their daughter Lilibet. Thank you very much. On this one, nobody should be rushing to defend Harry and Meghan Markle. Hello and a very warm welcome to Kate Middleton and the Queen. You know, sometimes I think to myself, I don't believe Harry and Meghan have any supporters left. I mean, who is rushing to their defense? And then I remember, they've got at least one ally they can always count on. Political activist / lawyer / race baiter, Dr. Shola Mos-Shogbamemu. She has taken to Twitter to defend her favorite Duke and Duchess of Hypocrisy, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, for disrespecting the late Queen Elizabeth II by choosing to name their invisible daughter Lilibet. The tweet reads, "God give me strength. People have lost their God-forsaken minds. Number 1, Harry and Meghan did not need anyone's permission, least of all Queen Elizabeth, to name their child Lilibet. The fact they got her blessing was out of respect, not necessity. Wrong. Okay, number 2, the name Lilibet predates Queen Elizabeth, for goodness sake. She didn't own it or create it. Number 3, what grandmother in her right mind would be angry at a great-grandchild being named in honor of her? I have very strong views about Queen Elizabeth as monarch and her legacy, but even I'm flabbergasted at these spurious claims that do nothing but blight her character and judgment. If these unnamed sources and aides thought this would damage Harry and Meghan, they're wrong. The Daily Mail has successfully dredged up a dead queen and given her name a beating in order to profit off defaming Harry and Meghan again. Shameful." Oh, she thinks that is shameful? No, I think the fact that she's speaking on this matter at all is pretty shameful. So let's dissect her statement just a little bit, shall we? So number 1, Meghan and Harry certainly did need the Queen's permission to name their daughter after her. I mean, come on. This is not the Jones family down the street we're talking about here. We are talking about the British royal family. Names are incredibly important to them. And the case of Lilibet is also a very special case, I would argue, because after Prince Philip passed away, which, by the way, was after Invisibet was born, the late Queen requested that nobody ever use that name again. Even if Harry and Meghan somehow assumed that she meant just in reference to herself, they still should have known. You've got to ask first. At least one of those two knuckleheads had to have known how hurtful that was going to be to the Queen, and they did it anyway because they didn't care. And as for number 2, that the name Lilibet predates Queen Elizabeth, maybe it does. Honestly, folks, I didn't even have the energy to look it up. I've never heard the name Lilibet before. But we know that in this family, the name Lilibet does not predate Queen Elizabeth. Lilibet is the name that she gave to herself when she was just a little girl because she couldn't pronounce her own name. This was a pet name, a name that was only used by people very close to her. So claiming that they just thought the name Lilibet was cute and it's some common name they just picked out of a baby names book is ridiculous. And then Dr. Shola's third point, that the Queen should have been honored that Harry and Meghan chose this name for their daughter, doesn't make a bit of sense because, again, it's not like they chose the name Elizabeth for her. They chose a private family pet name. It's a whole different kettle of fish. And if this Dr. Shola is as well educated as she claims to be, this is something I'm sure she realizes. She's being willfully obtuse here. And how dare she claim that this story is somehow damaging the memory of the late Queen? Absolutely not. It's damaging Harry and Meghan's reputations, which is what it should do. Nobody is thinking any less of the late Queen for being upset that Harry and Meghan used this name without her permission. Most people are very understanding, and most people are just heartbroken at the idea that she was heartbroken in the final months of her life. Well, unsurprisingly, royal fans have taken to Twitter to express their disagreement with Dr. Shola's opinion. One fan wrote, "Meghan and Harry are the most popular and successful royals in history, and they have done far more good in a few short years than all their ancestors did in centuries. They deserve the Nobel Peace Prize and should be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame without delay." I don't know who this royal fan is, but I very much appreciate their sense of humor. That's basically, though, how absurd Dr. Shola is when she talks about those two. She really talks about Meghan and Harry like they can walk on water, like they have reinvented the wheel. That is not what the rest of us see, but okay, sure. I also like this comment from a royal fan named Juju's Truth Tonic on X, formerly known as Twitter. They say, "It's not the name she was angry at, it was the lying saying she had given her blessing, which she had not." This user is absolutely right. It was the lying that upset the Queen more than anything else. I don't believe she would have given her permission for them to use that name in the first place, but if they had asked, at least it would have made things better. But instead, they lied, and they claimed they never would have used that name unless she had approved of it, which she hadn't. I do understand why that was so upsetting to her. This is her grandson, by the way, her grandson whom she did love deeply. I cannot imagine how much pain that brought to the Queen to see Harry turn on his own family like that. Another response to Dr. Shola's tweet that I really enjoyed came from Lawrence B. Brown. Lawrence writes, as usual, utter bilge from this expert in what? It would be deeply disrespectful for any parents to give their child an intimate family name without the grandparents' agreement. But when that grandparent was a head of state and probably the most highly respected woman in the world, it shows that this couple's arrogance has no bounds. I mean, talk about hitting the nail on the head. That act would have been considered disrespectful in probably any family, but the fact that it's the British royal family just makes it inexcusable. All right, everybody, and now time for a little bit of discussion. So I want to talk about the comments that you left in response to the video filled with regret. Harry can never forgive himself for how he treated late Queen with Megxit. So in this video, we were talking about a claim that was made recently by a royal expert that Prince Harry felt a lot of regret after Megxit because he didn't give the Queen a heads up beforehand. Now, was he really feeling shame and regret? Who knows? But let's see what you all had to say. Well, it sounds like most of you are not so convinced that Prince Harry could possibly have felt any regret. We've got user IQ3 saying filled with regret. He's so full of selfish, whinging, spiteful, mean, resentful BS that there probably isn't room for any other feeling. That's if he's capable of other feelings. Sometimes I feel this way too, to tell you the truth. We got some replies too. Brenda says, it is too late to regret what he did to the Queen. He made a fool of himself by writing Spare. Well, that's true. And then Iris says, he has no emotional capacity for regret. And number 2, he has to ask Meghan Markle for permission to regret. Well, again, you're probably right about that. Now, as far as if Harry is capable of feeling an emotion like regret, I do believe he is. Like I've said before, I don't believe that he's a narcissist like Meghan is. But is regret something that he feels very often? Well, no. I think he just numbs those feelings with all the drugs. Maybe, though, if he could lay off all the drugs for a little while, he would come to realize what an absolutely horrible person he has been to his family, and maybe he would change. But that's a big if. Next up, I would like to share a comment from Paula Weaver. Paula says, in my opinion, Harry just regrets getting caught in lies. Harry doesn't regret hurting his family, especially Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth or his grandfather Prince Philip, in my opinion. Thank you. Short, sweet, and to the point. Thank you, Paula. And you could very well be right about that. I mean, again, though, I think if Harry feels regret, he quickly numbs it with all that marijuana and the magic mushrooms and who knows what else he's doing. And that's the problem with drug abuse, see? It really prevents an individual from being able to take an objective look at their behavior and realize maybe they have made mistakes, maybe they've hurt people. And that's why in families so often, addicts have to just be cut out. They've hurt too many people and they don't feel any remorse. They're never going to say sorry, and so eventually you just have to give up on them. Usually it is Meghan Markle who likes to buy awards for herself, but this time it seems like Harry has gotten in on the action too. According to reports, Harry is set to be inducted alongside Apollo 11 heroes Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin as legends of aviation at glitzy Beverly Hills ceremony hosted by John Travolta. And Harry's going to be recognized ahead of the youngest person to walk on the moon. So if you're asking yourself, what exactly did Harry do to receive this honor? You're not alone. I think that's what we're all asking right now. As far as I can tell, Harry did absolutely nothing to deserve this honor, but anyway, let's take a look at the report in the Mail Online. According to the report, Harry has been recognized ahead of Charles Duke, who became the youngest person to walk on the moon back in 1972 when he was 36 years old. The event is going to be hosted by John Travolta, and in the past it has been dubbed by actor Morgan Freeman as the Oscars of Aviation. Quote, it is understood that his work with setting up the Invictus Games Foundation will also be celebrated, according to the awards. It's not clear whether Harry or his wife Meghan Markle will attend the ceremony. Okay, well, let's just think about this for a second. I suspect that Meghan Markle is behind all of this. After all, she's the one who believes it's a good idea for them to go out and buy awards for themselves. But I do wonder, how much do they have to pay for this one? And could this also be a response to Harry's name being left off the list of notable Sandhurst alums? So I guess in the Harkle zone, if your service or work does not get you recognition, then just go out and buy an award. It's basically the same thing. Understandably, people are having a field day with this information on social media. One person wrote on X, I look forward to every other military pilot in the world being given the same award based on his accomplishments in that field. Well, I mean, this person has a very good point. Harry didn't do anything special at all. I mean, he spent 4 months during his second tour in Afghanistan as an Apache helicopter pilot. How is that something that's so amazing that he deserves to be recognized for it? It's not. I mean, what a joke. Does this organization just not take itself seriously at all? Do they not care about their reputations being destroyed, much like the reputations of Harry and Meghan? Another person on X said, "Is this a joke? What is the legendary stuff that he has done? I am asking seriously, what the heck has he done?" Well, I certainly don't have an answer because I've got that exact same question. Again, when Harry served in the military, reportedly most of the time he spent playing video games in the bunker anyway. So how on earth is he going to be recognized for any type of service? And how could we forget what Harry wrote in Spare, bragging about the number of Taliban members that he killed? Harry should not be viewed as any kind of role model in any way, shape, or form. So listen to who Harry's going to be up there with. According to the Mail Online, Harry will take his place alongside other aviation and aerospace legends, including Aldrin, Jeff Bezos, Tom Cruise, Harrison Ford, Morgan Freeman, Elon Musk, and Saudi Prince Sultan bin Salman Al Saud. Okay, well, the inclusion of Tom Cruise and Jeff Bezos on this list tells me this is not a legitimate award ceremony whatsoever. This is some more Hollywood fluff that Meghan has somehow gotten Harry involved with. Or maybe Harry did this himself, I don't know. But I would be very surprised to learn that Harry would prefer being honored as a legend of aviation rather than being included in the British Army's book of notable soldiers. Harry has to know he has sold himself out completely. I mean, he has really cheapened his existence by following Meghan Markle to California. According to the Mail Online, other aerospace icons set to be inducted alongside the prince this year include U.S. Navy pilot Fred George and former world speed record holder Steve Hinton. So I do wonder how those two men are going to feel being up there with Prince Harry, who spent 4 months working as an Apache helicopter pilot, supposedly. I mean, are they not going to feel like their awards are cheapened by Prince Harry's presence? Or is the whole event just such BS that nobody really cares anyway? I mean, what is the point of events like this anyway? If the recognition is meaningless, then why even bother? Oh, and it looks like they're also going to be praising Harry for his charity work that he has done. A statement on the website said, Prince Harry is a humanitarian, military veteran, mental wellness advocate, and environmentalist. He has dedicated his life to advancing causes that he is passionate about and that bring about permanent change for people and places. Oh, wow, that sounds just like something Meghan Markle would write. I mean, has he really dedicated his life to advancing causes that he's passionate about? What causes exactly? Last I checked, he spends most of his time getting stoned and playing Call of Duty. So is that the cause that he's passionate about? And as for Harry being an environmentalist, tell us more about that. Let's think about the evidence of this claim that Harry is an environmentalist. Well, he and Meghan fly around on private jets whenever they get the opportunity. In New York, they insisted a 7-vehicle convoy of gas-guzzling SUVs accompany them a single block. Is this what they mean by environmentalist? According to the Mail Online, the event's website also highlights Harry's efforts as a humanitarian, mental wellness advocate, and environmentalist, touching on his work with Travelist, Sentabale, African Parks, Wellchild, Better Up, the Aspen Institute Commission on Information Disorder, and the Archwell Foundation. All right, well, let's think about these organizations. So Travelist, I thought Harry wasn't even working with Travelist anymore because of his eco-hypocrisy. I thought they basically told him, no thank you. And then Sentabale, okay, I think that's legitimate. African Parks, again, is pretty legitimate. Wellchild, yes, certainly legitimate. Better Up, where Harry is the chief impact officer? The chimp? Really now? How much work does he even do in that position? Last time I checked, we heard from employees at Better Up that Harry didn't do anything, that he would just come in and basically do absolutely nothing. And so they were insulted that he was holding on to this position. Okay, so then the Aspen Institute Commission on Information Disorder. Oh, you mean like what's wrong with Harry and Meghan putting out all these lies about themselves? My God. So the Aspen Institute is also a very sketchy organization that seeks to suppress freedom of speech. I would say this is the organization that Harry has committed himself to the most because, well, he wants to make sure that no negative articles can be written about him. This has nothing to do with Harry trying to make the world a better place. He just doesn't want people to have the right to say anything negative about him. Apparently, the event's website has also praised Harry's compassion, vulnerability, and unflinching honesty in his memoir, Spare. Okay, is Meghan Markle behind this whole event? Because who else is going to praise Harry's unflinching honesty in Spare? Spare contains so many ridiculous lies. I mean, it was almost as bad as the Oprah Winfrey interview. And the stuff in Spare that was not totally made up was just so mind-numbingly boring or absolutely inappropriate for Harry to reveal that I don't believe anybody should be praising him for anything that was written in Spare. Now, I do believe that Harry absolutely did enjoy his time in the military. As he told Anderson Cooper, "My military career saved me in many regards. It got me out of the spotlight from the UK press." And, okay, I mean, that last bit is a bit over the top, but whatever, this is Harry we're talking about. But I do believe the military probably did save his life in many ways. It gave him the structure that he so desperately needed at that point in time. But let's not try to rewrite history and act like he was some kind of war hero. Only Harry himself believes that he was a war hero. Nobody who served with him has any stories that make him seem like he deserves any kind of recognition. But I guess since Harry was snubbed by the British Army's book, he's got to take whatever he can get, even if he himself on some level knows that this recognition is absolute BS. All right, folks, first of all, I'm going to have to ask you to bear with me. I've been a little under the weather the past couple of days, and my voice is absolutely destroyed. I caught some kind of nasty stomach bug from my grandbaby. I swear there is the weirdest stuff going around in these preschools these days. I'm feeling better, but still don't sound great. So anyway, just bear with me. All right, so in this video, I'm going to talk to you about some comments that were made by Lee Cohen. So he's the ex-Great Britain advisor to the U.S. House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee, and he was having a conversation with GB News' Mark Dolan about Harry and Meghan, and why exactly they have been so unsuccessful in the U.S. According to Lee Cohen, the Sussexes have had failure after failure and setback after setback since they moved to America back in 2020, and he's absolutely right. But again, I don't know what Harry and Meghan thought was going to happen. I still, for the life of me, am never going to be able to understand why they thought their brand of spite and vindictiveness and being whiny and entitled was going to go over well with Americans. Americans cannot stand that kind of thing. And I know in the beginning they tried to portray themselves as the victims, hoping that they were going to get support from the woke libtards in the U.S. Well, obviously that hasn't worked out very well for them either. And you know what they say, go woke, go broke. I mean, these woke people are so incredibly fickle. Even if they were fans of Harry and Meghan in the beginning, all it ever would have required was one small slip-up of Harry and Meghan, showing themselves to not really be the eco-warriors and social justice warriors they claim to be, for them to lose the support of the woke brigade. And that's exactly what we have seen, because at the end of the day, Harry and Meghan are not progressive, they're not interested in social justice causes, they're simply interested in furthering their own selfish agenda. So back when they first moved to the U.S., they did set out to destroy the royal family. But as Lee Cohen says, their first failure, of course, was that they failed to harm the monarchy and the royal family. He went on to say Americans have no appetite for what the Sussexes are selling. While initially they were received with a great deal of interest, Americans, like Brits, don't have patience for negativity, for victimhood narratives, for trashing one's family for monetary gain, and certainly for hypocrisy. So their popularity in the United States continues to plunge. Initially, of course, people were curious to hear what Harry and Meghan had to say. I mean, they came out saying that, their time as royals was so difficult, they have to share their side of the story. And so we wanted to know, well, what is their side of the story? But basically, immediately it became obvious that their side of the story was mostly completely made up. These unverified claims of abuse at the hands of the royal family, that they didn't care about Meghan when she was feeling suicidal, that some members of the family made racist comments about Archie's skin color before he was born. Well, claim after claim after claim has been proven to be false. And so at this point in time, naturally, people are losing patience with their story. It seems like Harry and Meghan are still searching for a sympathetic audience, but they need to realize that until they change their brand, until they can stand for something more positive, something inspirational, something that can help people in the world, there's nowhere on earth they're going to find a lot of support, because people don't care for this victimhood nonsense. I mean, we all have our stories in our lives where we were the victims of some forces we couldn't control, but most of us don't base our entire existence on these moments. Most of us had to move on. We couldn't create a brand based on victimhood. Instead, we had to pick up the pieces and build a life for ourselves in spite of past trauma. This kind of growth is something that Harry and Meghan have shown they are incapable of, or they're too lazy to try, I guess. And at this point, even Harry and Meghan have to be realizing that building their brand on this victimhood narrative is not doing them any favors. I mean, at this point in time, they are running out of money. Cohen was asked if Harry and Meghan risk going broke, and he responded, of course. He said, I hope they have someone responsible controlling their finances, someone who's better adept at that goal than whoever is advising them on their messaging. It certainly would be best for them if they had someone controlling their finances, but I'm not convinced. I think Meghan Markle knows better than everybody. She's not going to let anybody control the finances. I believe that she wants her hands on all that money. She wants access to all of it so that she can squirrel some of it away for after she and Harry get divorced, and also so that she can buy whatever she wants to for herself. And that's why I believe Meghan Markle is going to be screwed financially after the divorce. Sure, she's going to get something from Harry, but it's not going to last forever. And I think Harry's going to be okay because I'm sure the royal family has some of his assets protected in some way, shape, or form. It does sound like he burned through all of the money Diana left for him, but reportedly there might be something the Queen Mother left for him. And also, I mean, come on, it's the royal family. It's not like they're going to let Harry just live his life in poverty. I'm sure they will help him out if he does the right thing by apologizing, making amends, showing real remorse for everything he and Meghan did, and also, of course, divorcing that witch once and for all. All right, my friends, and now for a little discussion time. Today, we're going to be talking about the comments that you left in response to the video. Sad news. Harry erased from history. Duke of Hypocrisy receives most painful snub. In this video, we were talking about this book that is being put out by the British Army. It's a list of the most notable Sandhurst alums, and guess whose name is not included? Harry, of course. And Prince William is going to be writing the foreword, which really has to sting. Of course, this snub should come as no surprise to Harry, considering his past behavior, but the entitled man-baby still probably sees it as a slap in the face, so let's see what you had to say. The first comment I want to share comes to us from Nanny of Minnie 8315. Nanny says he did go to Afghanistan twice, was escorted to his bunker with Gurkhas to look after him, gave him a PlayStation, controllers, and games, Call of Duty, etc., then forgotten about until his tours were over. Harry was, under cover of darkness, shipped back to Britain. Those 2 rather longer holidays in Afghanistan were summarily done with making Harry a war hero of PlayStation fame. You're right, and this is exactly why. It's ridiculous for Harry to have expected to be included in that list. I mean, he didn't do anything. Wendy says, bunker Harry a legend on his PlayStation and a slap in the face to all the brave men that protected him and put their own lives on the line for this sorry excuse for a man. And then Ada says, God bless and thank you for opening your eyes. I mean, really, if Harry believes he deserves to be on that list, he's more delusional than I thought. He has really only brought shame to Sandhurst. As a soldier, Harry was supposed to protect Britain, not try to bring down the monarchy. And the next comment is from Paula Weaver. Paula says, Harry is so mad, in my opinion, of being excluded from the Sandhurst book that Harry had to buy himself an award to look good. Yes, Paula, that's exactly what happened. Paula goes on to say, the puff piece in People magazine online says Harry is getting a living legend of aviation, which is hosted by John Travolta. Harry, who couldn't pass his pilot test twice, documented in the newspaper at the time. In my opinion, Prince William is more eligible for this than Harry. Prince William actually flew rescue missions. In fact, Prince Andrew is, in my opinion, eligible for this award for flying in combat during the Falklands War. Yes, Andrew had questionable actions after that, especially with chosen friends. In my opinion, any military pilot in England, Commonwealth countries, and U.S. should be eligible for the award, in my opinion. Sorry, playing a video game pilot doesn't count, in my opinion. Thank you. Thank you, Paula. You're absolutely right. Now, this award is not a real award. It's exactly like the Women in Vision award that Meghan bought for herself. It's exactly like the award they bought from the Kennedys for, what was it, fighting racism in the British monarchy or something. I mean, Harry and Meghan are not receiving any legitimate awards, let's be real here. And if you look up the awards that John Travolta is hosting, these Legends of Aviation, even on the Wikipedia page says it is a paid-for award service. So obviously, there's no legitimacy to this. Why even bother? I mean, those 2 are so desperate. If you ask me, Elizabeth is a beautiful name, and choosing to name their daughter Elizabeth, either the first name or the middle name, would have given Harry and Meghan an opportunity to honor the late Queen without basically giving her a big slap in the face by choosing a name that was totally inappropriate. But they didn't choose to name their daughter Elizabeth, did they? No, they named her Lilibet, which they already knew was the Queen's private nickname. That was never a name that anybody outside of a few members of her family and a few very close friends were allowed to call the late Queen. So I do believe that Harry and Meghan knew exactly what they were doing when they chose that name for their daughter. They wanted to hurt her. They wanted to insult her. They wanted to offend. The obvious question here is why? Why did they do it? Why did they choose to use this name, knowing or perhaps not knowing that it would greatly upset the late Queen? Well, according to Rebecca English over at the Daily Mail, Harry and Meghan didn't do it to hurt the Queen. She writes, Harry and Meghan would not have intended to cause her grief, over this at any rate. Barricaded in their California cocoon, blanketed by the cozy schmaltz of their new showbiz life, it simply wouldn't have occurred to the couple that such a gesture would cause offense. But I suspect Miss English is giving Harry and Meghan a bit too much leeway here. I don't believe it. I do believe that they knew that it would cause offense, and I believe that's exactly why they did it. Were they angry at her because she didn't go along with their half-in, half-out royals plan? Maybe that was it. Were they upset because they blamed her for their failure as working royals? Again, it's a possibility. But I simply find it very difficult to believe that Harry and Meghan are innocent in all this, that they just wanted to choose a cute name for their daughter to honor the Queen, and didn't realize that choosing this specific name was going to be such an insult. When Harry and Meghan chose to name their daughter Lilibet, they stuck a knife in the Queen's back. And then, when they insisted that they had asked her permission beforehand, they just twisted the knife to make it go even deeper. It sounds like after Harry and Meghan publicly stated that they would never have used her private family nickname if she had not been, quote, supportive, that really pushed the Queen over the edge. How dare they tell such a blatant lie about something the late Queen herself was involved in? It's also important to note that Harry and Meghan were reacting to a report in the BBC of all places. This was not the Daily Mail, this was not the Mirror, this was not the Sun. But Johnny Diamond over at the BBC reported being told by a palace source that the Queen was never asked by Harry and Meghan about using the nickname Lilibet. According to Rebecca English, Diamond said his source disputed reports in the wake of the announcement of the name that Harry and Meghan had spoken to the Queen to garner her blessing. Harry and Meghan's spokesman, though, was pretty quick to denounce that report, insisting that, in fact, the Queen was the first family member who Harry had called and informed her of the birth and then asked for permission to use the name. As reported by Rebecca English, he said that during their conversation, he shared their hope of naming their daughter Lilibet in her honor. Had she not been supportive, they would not have used the name. And then they got their lawyers over at Shillings to issue some letters to the BBC and other outlets too, threatening legal action. They were claiming that the report that the Queen in fact was not asked for permission was, quote, false and defamatory and should not be repeated. It tells us a lot, though, that the BBC didn't back down. It's because the BBC knew that they had the right information. The BBC knew that Harry and Meghan were lying. They knew the objective truth was on their side, so they weren't scared about whatever Harry and Meghan may be throwing their way. Another thing that needs to be considered is that even before Lilibet was born, Harry and Meghan apparently had already registered Lilibet Diana as a domain name on the internet. I mean, how absolutely disgusting can two people be? So even before the so-called birth of their so-called daughter, Harry and Meghan were already thinking up ways to merch her. Or maybe it was just Meghan, I don't know, but somebody certainly registered that domain name, and it sure wasn't Lilibet. Another thing is, if they had already registered the domain name, they had already chosen that name. I mean, come on, it was a done deal. Maybe they told the late Queen about it after the fact, but it makes it obvious that they didn't ask for permission beforehand. Rebecca English writes, as it was described to me, the then 95-year-old monarch was taken aback when she was told by her grandson of his intention to give his daughter the name Lilibet in her honor, but didn't feel, given the circumstances, she could say no. You might describe it as being pushed into an impossible corner. I don't know about you all, but my heart just breaks when I read that. I mean, the late Queen was 95 years old. She had been in service to her country for nearly 70 years at that point in time. She didn't deserve to have to deal with these problems from her own family members. At that point in her life, she should have been able to just kick back and enjoy herself. She should have been able to enjoy spending time with her family members, the little bit of time that she had left. But instead, she's having to face this blatant disrespect from her dim-witted grandson and that American hussy he married. Reportedly, when the late Queen heard of Harry and Meghan's decision to name their invisible daughter Lilibet, she said, "I don't own the palaces. I don't own the paintings. The only thing I own is my name. And now they've taken that." I don't see how those two can look in the mirror at themselves at this point in time. How can they live with themselves knowing that stress and the pain they caused Harry's supposedly beloved grandmother in the last years and months of her life? I mean, that is something that I don't think either of them can ever be forgiven for. And I know I talk about Harry being let back into the family, and I do believe that if he makes amends, he would be let back in. But at the same time, I don't believe the family, and certainly not the public, will ever be able to fully forgive Harry for the stress and heartache he caused his allegedly beloved grandmother and certainly his grandfather before they passed away. That kind of elder abuse is simply unforgivable. What the late Queen said about not owning the palaces and the jewels is absolutely right. She didn't own them personally. As English writes, she was in most respects simply the conservator of them for future generations on behalf of the nation. It was an important role, and it was a role that she held dear. But who can fault her for wanting just one thing of her own, her beloved childhood nickname? And so that was why, even though the late Queen was not going to come out publicly and say she never gave Harry and Meghan permission to use the name, she was also not willing to support Harry and Meghan's claims that they did ask for permission. According to Robert Hardman, despite posting their good wishes on social media, Buckingham Palace flatly refused to be co-opted into propping up Harry and Meghan's version of events. Interestingly enough, after Buckingham Palace refused to help Harry and Meghan out, the threats of legal action started to quietly disappear. Well, that's because Harry and Meghan even realized that without the Queen supporting their claims, they had no claims because their claims were founded upon absolutely nothing. They had no right to be upset with the BBC for reporting that they didn't ask the late Queen's permission when in fact they didn't. Now, of course, if Lilibet really does exist, then she doesn't deserve to receive any abuse because of her name that her parents chose for her. But that doesn't mean that Harry and Meghan should somehow be let off the hook. I mean, the fact is, this was an incredibly hurtful thing to the Queen, and this is something that Harry and Meghan should have to answer for. Are they going to? I'm sure they won't. I'm sure they'll remain quiet on this like they always do when they know they're in the wrong. But I am thankful to Robert Hardman for setting the story straight on this issue, and I think when we have access to the whole book, we're going to see even more information about things that happen with Harry and Meghan from a different perspective. We're getting sick and tired of only being exposed to their narrative. It's time for the whole truth. This morning, a friend of mine passed along an article that they came across in The Guardian. Now, normally, The Guardian is not a publication that I make it a point of reading very often. Oftentimes, I find their articles a little too progressive, a little too woke. But boy, this one had me cracking up because guess who it's all about? Prince Harry. So we've got the title. If Harrison Ford and John Travolta can be crowned living legends of aviation, why not Prince Harry? It's written by a lady named Marina Hyde, and I gotta tell you, she is one funny gal. Of course, she wrote this article because Prince Harry is set to be crowned on Friday as a living legend of aviation by this made up organization that is essentially just a way for WME to pat themselves on the back. And it's being sponsored by this organization called the Kitty Hawk Foundation, spelled Kiddie. Clearly a play on Kitty Hawk, the town in North Carolina where flight was first introduced. So I don't know what this organization is really all about. They claim that they try to introduce aviation to young people. But it seems to me if they can sponsor an event where Prince Harry is being crowned a living legend of aviation, they can't be all that serious. Some people are asking, why exactly is Prince Harry receiving this honor? Well, basically, everybody is asking that question, and so far, it doesn't sound like anybody has a clear answer. Now, the best answer that I have come across, I don't even remember where I read it, but somebody online had described this living legends of aviation as a self licking WME ice cream cone, and I think that's exactly what this is all about. This is not a real award. This is a way for clients of WME to brag about getting some award that doesn't mean anything at all, but maybe idiots are going to believe it does. When you look at it that way, I mean, who better to receive this award than Prince Harry? Harry is the poster boy for receiving awards for not doing anything at all. Just think of all the awards that he and Meghan have picked up since they moved to America. They even picked up that Ripple of Hope award for supposedly fighting back against institutional racism within the British royal family, even though later on Harry said the royal family, in fact, is not racist. And now we're still waiting for him to give back that award. I guess he hasn't gotten around to it yet. But maybe he will finally hand that award back to make room for his new Legends of Aviation award. So Marina Hyde writes, lovers of full combat Prince Harry rows will be positively looping the loop over the latest one, which has drawn former British military chiefs out of the woodwork to fume about the prospect of the Duke of Sussex being named a living legend of aviation this Friday in Beverly Hills. Understandably, real living legends of aviation have not been very happy to hear that Harry is going to be picking up this award. Admiral Lord West, for example, said he is not a living legend of aviation. To suggest he is pathetic. It makes the whole thing seem a bit of a nonsense if they're willing to pick someone like Prince Harry. But Marina Hyde says Harry absolutely deserves this. She reminds us that John Travolta has a Boeing 707 literally parked in his Floridian driveway. So if he's going to be the host, then why not give the award to Harry? I guess it makes sense in this nonsensical, absurd world that we're living in. She writes, induction into a hall of fame where fellow living legends of aviation include Morgan Freeman, only got his pilot license at 65, and Harrison Ford once crash landed his plane on a Californian golf course. Fellow 2024 honorees, including Jeff Bezos' fiancee, Lauren Sanchez. Again, I'm really going to need his lordship to elaborate on his policy position on this one. How can the whole thing seem a bit of a nonsense? And that's even before you consider the fact that the award's host, Travolta, famously once danced at the White House with the award recipient's mother and retrospectively called this probably the best moment of the 80s. Marina also mentions the petition that was making the rounds online. And I heard about that petition. I think I saw it mentioned on Reddit or somewhere. There was an online petition trying to get Legends of Aviation to reconsider nominating Harry. About the petition, Marina writes, meanwhile, an online petition states the decision to honor the Duke of Sussex is a travesty on the part of such an esteemed organization. But then in the next paragraph, she writes, and yet, is it esteemed? Who has really ever heard of this autoparodic body until now, which was presumably part of the reason they pulled Prince Harry's name out of the pre-publicity hat in the first place? It's amazing, really, how much of the wider esteem business is taken up with confected ceremonies, such as the one due to take place in Beverly Hills, and consequently how suspect the entire industry of conferring esteem is. I gotta admit that on this one, I completely agree with Marina. Living Legends of Aviation is not an esteemed organization. Come on. It's completely made up. It's a way for Hollywood types to give awards to each other and themselves. And I think she makes a good point too about how this really illustrates just how nonsensical and made up the whole awards industry is. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry, I do believe. I mean, it makes a lot of money. But do any of the awards actually mean anything? Well, absolutely not. They're just a way for the rich, elite, and famous to pat themselves on the back, to have a participation trophy, if you will, to put up there on their mantles, and also tell everybody about it like they really did something to get the award. Unsurprisingly, Harry and Meghan are very big fans of awards such as these, which I guess when you're a couple of grifters who have no real talent or skills, that's the only thing you've got going for you. Marina Hyde writes, almost all awards honoring famous people for non-professional reasons are like this, and a whole host of the ones honoring them for professional reasons are like this too. Meanwhile, absolutely all award ceremonies are revenue-gathering schemes. A VIP table at the Legends of Aviation Awards will set you back up to $30,000. Now, when you think about it, you see these types of awards everywhere, even in small towns. For example, these lists of, I don't know, for example, the top 30 real estate agents under 30. They have paid money to get on that list. They're not actually being awarded because of their good work. And of course, I can't say that about all those lists. I mean, maybe there are some out there that are actually legitimate. But I know around me at least, most of them are completely made up. People are paying money to get their names on that list. It has nothing to do with accomplishments. Harry and Meghan are also big fans of receiving humanitarian awards because remember, that's what they moved to America to be, humanitarians. I like, though, what Marina has to say. She writes, take the humanitarian award industry. The sheer cost of the many humanitarian award ceremonies staged every year could lift countless people out of poverty. And the notion that they are vague handwear and effective marketing spend is another claim that never gets seriously interrogated. They are so ubiquitous as to amount to little more than participation medals for celebrities. Paris Hilton has 2 humanitarian awards. Angelina Jolie has absolutely masses of the things. She does a lot for charity, of course, and I suppose the only people on this earth who do more for charity, really, are the millions of people who work for charities every day. But they are not famous and consequently never get their gala night. And I think what she's saying here is one thing that bothers all of us about these made up award ceremonies. We've got so many people out there working day in, day out, spending their lives helping other people. But do they get acknowledged? Absolutely not. Instead, the awards go to the people who can pay for them. And if you ask me, that's wrong. Of course, what remains to be seen is whether Prince Harry is going to be there to personally accept his Legends of Aviation award, or if he's going to be too stoned at home on the sofa playing Call of Duty and he's going to forget about the whole thing. But no matter what, I hope that he feels at least just a little bit of shame getting this spurious award. I do hope that this forces him to think carefully about how his life has changed since he abandoned his position as a working royal. Because if you ask me, royals should really be giving out awards. They shouldn't be receiving made-up ones. For months now, we have been hearing and seeing these reports that Harry is ready to reconcile with his father, that he wants to make peace, that he's ready to move on and let bygones be bygones. And personally, I found these reports to be pretty believable. After all, Harry and Meghan are failing big time in the US. They're running out of money. So what else is Harry going to do but turn to his family for help when the going gets rough? And now, according to Life and Style magazine, King Charles has chosen Harry over William, and William is pissed. I'm not sure I believe this report, but let's see what they have to say. All right, let's start with the cover in this bizarrely photoshopped photo. We've got Harry and Charles with these big grins on their faces. Harry looks, I don't know, I've never seen this expression on his face before. Honestly, I'm not even sure this is a real picture or maybe it's AI. And then we've got William looking concerned or angry. I don't know. Obviously, this is not a real shot. Either they put a few different photos together or the whole thing is just AI. If you can tell, let me know in the comments section. And we've got the headline, King Charles chooses Harry over William. Major shakeup gives Harry and Meghan new royal roles. How Kate's constant conflict with Camilla backfired. Furious William cancels official appearances. Charles invites Archie and Lilibet to Balmoral. Okay, well, it has been a little while since we have seen one of these ludicrous puff pieces coming from Meghan's team. We thought maybe they were finished, but clearly not. I don't believe for 1 second any of this is really going on. And that's a problem with their lies. They're so over the top that nobody can believe them. I mean, I would believe that King Charles and Harry have made peace. I would believe that story. But to believe that somehow Harry and Meghan have been given new royal roles, it's ridiculous. And we're expected to believe that Archofficial and Invisibet have been invited to Balmoral. Well, last time I checked, actually, Harry and the children were already invited last summer. But this is making it sound like this invitation has happened recently, which I highly doubt. And if it wasn't already obvious that this information is coming directly from Meghan Markle herself, let's look at this, how Kate's constant conflict with Camilla backfired. She has always got to take a dig at Catherine whenever she can. She just cannot help herself. Any opportunity she gets to say something bad about Catherine or try to make her look bad, oh, she's going to take it. Meghan's jealousy is completely out of control. She's like an 11-year-old girl. All right, and we open up the magazine to the actual article. We've got mending fences. I will always love him, Harry has said of Charles. There's a lot of hurt that's happened. I will continue to make it one of my priorities to heal that relationship. All right, nothing wrong there. Again, I have never doubted that Harry is trying to make peace with King Charles. It's his father, and also Harry's getting pretty desperate. But the rest of it, I don't know about that. So we've got, as one feud ends, another begins. King Charles III welcomes Prince Harry back into the royal fold against Prince William's wishes. Well, if Harry really is to be welcomed back into the royal fold, as this article is claiming, then it absolutely will be against Prince William's wishes. He has already made that abundantly clear. He doesn't trust Harry. According to some reports, he even hates Harry. Life and Style magazine is claiming that not only did King Charles allow Fergie to join the royal family at Sandringham for Christmas, but he is also reestablishing a connection with Harry. According to an insider, they've had their differences, but Charles never stopped loving Harry. He was sad to lose him, even if he wouldn't publicly admit it. So when Harry reached out at the end of 2023, he was more than receptive. The father-son bond they share never went away, and they were able to mend things pretty quickly, much to the surprise of some family members. Now, maybe I'm a cynic, but it's really hard for me to imagine that this insider is anybody except Meghan Markle herself. This sounds exactly like something she would say. But apparently it is William who's not so excited about this. According to the insider, he's furious. His brother has caused so much drama for the royals that when William heard Harry and Charles were talking again, he told his father, "It's Harry or me." And Charles chose Harry. Now William can't help but feel betrayed. Now, some of that information I do believe, like that William was furious, but honestly, I don't believe that William is gonna put an ultimatum to his father, like choose me or Harry. It seems a little immature for William, don't you think? And even if William were to say that, why would King Charles choose Harry over William? It doesn't make a bit of sense. William is the heir. William and Catherine and those beautiful children are the future of the monarchy. Harry and Meghan are nobodies who have invisible children nobody's even seen before. I really don't believe the king is that foolish. And if this report is true, if King Charles and Harry really have come to some agreement, then William has good reason to be upset about it. I think William's issue is that Harry cannot be trusted, and he's right about that. According to the insider, William warned his father that it's only a matter of time before Harry betrays the family again. It seemingly fell on deaf ears, though. Well, of course it's only a matter of time. As Harry and Meghan are running out of money and options in America, what else are they going to do but try to get more dirt on the royal family to sell to the highest bidder? Life and Style magazine, though, is claiming that Charles and William already have a very tense relationship, which honestly I don't really believe. I mean, we've also seen numerous reports claiming the opposite, that since Harry and Meghan abandoned the family, William and Charles have actually gotten a lot closer, and that figuring out a solution to the problem known as Sussex has brought father and son together. But according to the insider, Charles doesn't feel pressure when talking to Harry, unlike William, who is itching to be king. They're locked in an ongoing power struggle. This is a claim, folks, that I absolutely do not believe. When are they going to give this up? I mean, I'm sick of Meghan and Harry trying to push this narrative that William is so desperate to be king that he's basically trying to overthrow his own father. I don't believe it for a second. I think William knows that his time is going to come eventually and he's going to be ready for it. But I don't believe for 1 second that he's itching to be king and it's causing problems between himself and his father. Oh, and then here comes the part where they've got to take a dig at Catherine. The insider says Kate's constant conflict with Camilla about issues big and small infuriate Charles. It appears to have further driven him and Camilla toward Harry and Meghan. Well, I guess this here, friends, is the point when they stop trying to make this article even sound believable. I mean, who is going to believe that Catherine and Camilla are fighting and having all kinds of problems and all kinds of arguments over issues big and small? Catherine is legendary for being easy to get along with. Catherine is not somebody who wants to rock the boat unnecessarily. And another thing is that King Charles deeply loves his daughter-in-law. That much is obvious. It also doesn't make any sense. Even if Camilla and Catherine were butting heads over issues, why would that make Camilla and Charles want to be more involved with Harry and Meghan? But it is just like Meghan Markle, isn't it, to imply that with a snap of his fingers, King Charles can perform a little switcheroo and all of a sudden Harry's the heir. Now, according to the insider, William is so upset over King Charles and Harry reuniting that he is refusing to do official appearances. The insider says as of now, he refuses to show up. He's also giving Charles silent treatment as a kind of revenge. There's a lot of tension between them at the moment. Okay, again, this is the kind of behavior we would expect to see from Harry and Meghan, the toddlers stuck in adult bodies. But this is not the kind of behavior we would see from an adult man like William. If William has a problem with his father, he's going to talk to him about it. He's not going to give him the silent treatment and refuse to do his job. Oh, and reportedly, Charles is becoming really close with Archofficial and Lilibet too. The insider also reported Charles has invited the kids to spend time with him at Balmoral. He's hated not being able to see and connect with his grandchildren over the past few years. Well, in my opinion, the biggest obstacle to the king connecting with and seeing his grandchildren is the fact that really nobody can see them. I don't see how issuing an invitation to the children to join him at Balmoral is going to help matters at all. I mean, there's still the problem of Harry and Meghan figuring out how to produce the children. Now, we still haven't heard about the royal rolls, so let's take a look what the insider says about that. The insider reports Charles is giving them new roles in the monarchy, but has told them to stand by for the specifics. Let's just say William will not be happy about what's in store. Rumor has it there's going to be a major rearrangement of duties. What on earth are they talking about? A rearrangement of duties? This really is a fantasy directly from Meghan Markle's twisted, demented head. I can't even believe that Life and Style published this nonsense. I mean, seriously. So the insider concludes by saying that William is going to be so upset about this big news. Quote, he's feeling beyond stressed and bitter. All right, thank you, Meghan Markle, for your insider information, none of which was actually accurate or true. When are they going to stop with this? I mean, it's 2024. Have they not realized yet that people are getting sick and tired of these nonsensical articles that are written from only their perspective being published in the media? We can see right through it. We know it's a big steaming pile of BS. But these media outlets simply cannot help themselves. They just keep on publishing these puff pieces. Folks, at this rate, it looks like the madness is never going to end. At this point in time, my friends, I just kind of wish we could stop seeing all these articles being put out claiming that Harry and Meghan have got to try to find a way to turn things around, or 2024 is going to be the year that makes or breaks Harry and Meghan, or they've got to find a new act in 2024. I think it's about time to stop all this. If they don't do something, this is going to happen. They're not going to do whatever it is to save their careers. Harry and Meghan's careers in the US, and really everywhere for that matter, are done. And now the only question is, what are they going to do next? From my perspective, it is way too late for Harry and Meghan to turn things around. I mean, they've already been dumped by Spotify for, well, not being willing to put in any real work, and the work they did do being absolutely abysmal. Netflix reportedly is about ready to follow suit. And why would Netflix want to hang on to those two? They're lazy, they're grifters, they don't do anything to help the company. Netflix cares about Netflix first and foremost. They don't care about a couple of losers they signed on back in 2020 who at the time seemed promising. According to The Express, a senior studio executive yesterday blasted the royal couple's alarming lack of content and bleakly forecast they could find themselves walking a financial tightrope simply to survive. Well, if you ask me, they're already walking on this tightrope, and they're not doing a very good job either. It seems like maybe all that weed they've been smoking has messed with their balance, because it looks to me like they're about to fall off. I mean, at this point, the two of them don't have any money coming in. Where could the money possibly be coming from? At this point, I don't see how any of Harry's inheritance money could possibly be left over. Just think about the amount of money they spend on that home, on Meghan's wardrobe, on security. Their living expenses are astronomical. And this is also why I don't believe Meghan's going to stick around for much longer. Once the money runs out, you know a gold digger like her is not going to stick around. And sure, Harry and Meghan still have that Netflix contract, but are they going to be able to actually produce anything for Netflix? As the source cautioned, what immediately worries me is the alarming lack of any other original content on their roster. Netflix bought the book they are adapting, but the question everyone in Hollywood is asking is, can they actually pull this off without either of them having any real prior experience? This is a make or break year for them in every sense. Either their company turns this project into a success, or they could face a financial nightmare if Netflix pulls the plug on a new contract with them in 2025. Now, of course, the project the source is referring to is this Meet Me at the Lake. It was a book, and Netflix has bought the rights to adapt the book to make a movie. And supposedly, Archwell Productions is going to be handling this project, and Harry and Meghan are going to put on their producer hats. The story doesn't make a bit of sense. I do not believe for 1 second that Netflix is going to take that risk. I mean, Netflix right now is not doing very well financially. In 2023, they lost so many subscribers. I simply don't believe they're going to let those two idiots try their hand at something that will most likely be a colossal failure. This idea that 2024 is the year that is going to make or break them also lines up with what Tom Bauer has been saying. So he went on Talk TV and he said that Harry and Meghan have only made money since they got to the US by exposing their own unhappiness with the royal family. He went on to say, the idea they have anything else to contribute beyond their trashing of the royal family is laughable. They've been found out. They are now ridiculed in Hollywood and they are ignored in New York. As usual, I think Tom is spot on here. At this point in time, talking about what Harry and Meghan need to do to succeed in Hollywood or New York, or anywhere else in America is just beating a dead horse. It's time for them to give it up and figure out some new career for themselves. But I guess the problem is they can't figure out anything else. They don't have talent. They don't have any marketable skills. They don't really even have the education to support themselves. So what are they going to do? Well, I still suspect that all these little stories coming out about how dire things are for Harry and Meghan are preparing us for the inevitable divorce announcement that is coming soon. We are going to hear that Harry and Meghan really tried to make things work, but it was just too difficult. And so now Harry has decided that he can't possibly be happy in the US and he's got to go back home to his family in the UK. But Meghan couldn't possibly return to the UK. Her heart is in Hollywood, so she's going to stay. And we're going to hear they are splitting up due to irreconcilable differences. And after the divorce announcement, I suspect that's when things are going to get really dirty. And we'll be here with popcorn to watch it all. Okay, my friends, and now discussion time. Today, I'm going to be talking about the comments that you all left in response to the video, Absolute Betrayal. Charles slaps William by offering Sussex forgiveness and new royal roles. In this video, I was sharing with you this article that I came across in Life and Style magazine, claiming that King Charles has not only forgiven Harry and Meghan, but he's offering them new royal roles, and he is choosing Harry over William. Well, of course, I thought this article was a big steaming pile of BS, and I listed all the reasons why, but let's see what you all had to say. The first comment comes to us from AB London SW. Unless the new roles involve the traitor and his wife being put in stocks and having rotten tomatoes, eggs, etc. hurled at them on a daily basis, it would be completely unfeasible because the British public simply would not see them fit for anything else. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think most people in Britain do. And that's why the whole idea is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, who would believe this news? And then Barbara says, if this were true, if I were Prince William, I would gather my wife and children, fill my pockets with my billions, and move to another country. That would be such a betrayal for William's extreme loyalty. I don't believe a word of it. You're right, Barbara. I mean, I don't know what idiot would believe this story. The king would never do that to William. William is his loyal heir. William and Catherine and the children, like I said before, are the future of the monarchy. The king is not going to do anything to put that at risk. And then Wendy says, another trick from the Harkles. Exactly, because at this point in time, they are crashing and burning. All they can really do are these little tricks they like to play with the media. That's the only way they can keep themselves going. Next up, a comment from Kate London. Kate says, as usual, Meghan Markle is just paying for puff pieces to publish her fantasies about what she would like to manifest. Like Meghan Markle is on the verge of signing an ambassador deal with Dior, Meghan Markle is overwhelmed with acting offers. Her staff has never seen anything like it. Catherine is so jealous of Meghan Markle's beauty, style, and grace. Yeah, right. I put this, King Charles is going to carve out new roles for the Sussexes because he chose Harry over William in the same camp. Okay, Meghan Markle, stick to your delusions and your truth. It's working great for you. Kate, I feel the same as you. I mean, these puff pieces are just so outrageous. That's part of why I don't understand why they even bother with them. It's so clear when this stuff comes from Meghan Markle and her team, because it's not like they even bother trying to make it sound believable. You know what I wish for 2024? I wish Meghan would keep her delusions to herself. And you, what do you think about this idea that 2024 is the year that is going to make or break Harry and Meghan? Do you think there's any chance of success, or are they already broken? Let me know your opinion below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to like and share it with anybody else who would appreciate it too. If you haven't already, please click subscribe so that you don't miss a single update from Kate Middleton and the Queen. If you've got some extra time and want to help me out a little bit, please visit the King-Charles channel to report them for stealing content again. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for tuning in. You have a wonderful day, and I'll be back to see you in the next videos.